Hello, this is the Wyoming Traveler, and I am at the National Historic Trails Interpretive Center on a very windy day in Casper, Wyoming. This is a free museum operated by the Bureau of Land Management. Let's get out of the wind and visit the National Historic Trails Interpretive Center. From 1841 until the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869, over 500,000 people crossed the continent from St. Joseph, Missouri to Oregon, California, or Utah on the Emigrant Trail. The Pony Express also followed this trail. West of South Pass, the trail split. North is the Oregon Trail. West is the California Trail, and southwest is the Mormon Trail. The National Trails Museum tells the story of the men and women, and even children, who crossed the continent from St. Joe, Missouri, to either the Oregon Territory in the Willamette Valley, to Salt Lake City in Utah, and all the way to California. The museum, or interpretive center, is more than a look-see attraction, but a place where the visitor can see, touch, and interact with the exhibits. Many of the exhibits are life-size. In the center of the auditorium is a program depicting the various aspects of crossing the continent. The journey was over 2,000 miles long, traveling across prairie, mountains, desert, and rivers. The pioneers were exposed to the elements: wind, drought, often torrential rain driven by high winds, heat, sometimes freezing cold, and snow. Many died, mostly from disease, accidents, gunshot wounds, drowning, or the weather. The trail averaged 10 to 15 deaths per mile. Few of the deaths resulted from Indian encounters. People traveled 10 to 15 miles per day, sometimes less when having to cross rivers or steep mountain passes. The entire journey took about 6 months.
As well, moments of joy and excitement would provide a welcome relief from the boredom and hardships they constantly endured.
Day after day, week after week, we went through the same weary routine of breaking camp at daybreak, yoking the oxen, cooking our meager rations over a fire of sage bushes.
It was 15 miles.
The most iconic symbol of the trek across the continent is that of the prairie schooner. The prairie schooner was basically a farm wagon. They were fitted with 6 to 8 large wooden bows that arched over the wagon's bed. The bows were covered with a canvas cloth, which had been waterproof. The top could be drawn in at both ends, leaving an oval opening to admit air and light to the inside. The canvas covering looked like a ship's sail, hence the name Prairie Schooner. The body of the wagon was a simple wooden box, 9 to 10 feet long and about 4 feet wide. The sides and the ends were about 2 feet high. Immigrants frequently built a false floor about 12 inches from the bottom of the bed, divided into compartments. It was used for storing extra supplies. The wagons were pulled by mules, horses, or oxen. Mules or horses were harnessed to the wagon and driven by someone sitting in the driver's seat. Oxen were driven by an individual who walked at the left side of the team and directed the oxen with verbal commands or the crack of the whip. The oxen were the primary animals used to pull the wagon. The oxen could live off the prairie grass, whereas horses and to a lesser extent mules required extra feed. The wagon wheels measured between 3 and 4 feet high and about 14 feet in circumference. The front wheels were always smaller than the rear wheels. This made the wagons easier to maneuver. The wagons carried supplies and items needed for the new life in the West. There was little or no room for passengers, and riding in the wagons was uncomfortable. Only the elderly or small children rode. Everyone else walked. At night, pioneers slept under the stars or under the wagon. Some may have fashioned a canvas cloth or a blanket as a shelter half, and a few may have had actual The journey was difficult and dangerous, with death a constant companion.
Tomorrow we would lay her away, deep in the earth where wolves could not get her. Robed in snowy white, the lovely wild flowers of the prairie that she loved so well.
One of the most hazardous aspects of the trail were river crossing. At times, immigrants used ferries. Sometimes, rivers just had to be forded. One of the neatest activities at the museum is a simulated river crossing.
Yeah.
It's going to rock pretty good.
Everybody ready in there?
He's all set.
All right, let's move them out.
But if you want me to stop the motion, you just tell me and I'll make it stop.
All right.
You can still have the video.
Okay. As you see, the water can be dangerous. There's walls of quicksand out here we can't see. Just stay down. No matter what happens, don't stand up. With all the rain we've had, the river's running. I swear. Something floats down the river, runs into the wagon. Just keep you safe. This river was any higher, we could spend another couple of nights on that side. Who knows how long? Look, nothing's gonna happen. But if anything does, just stay in the wagon. John, you okay? Oh, I'm just stuck in a rock. Can I help you out at all? You're okay. Well, then get a move on. We have wagons coming through. Listen, no matter what happens, just sit still.
best way to cross a river was by a bridge. In 1853, the first bridge was built over the North Platte River. Enterprising individuals built other bridges at river crossings along the trail.
This activity gives you a virtual ride on a stagecoach.
People in the coach with us. The companies always crowd the coaches, even though their mail contracts pay for the service. Here, child, have some bread and meat from the package the same.
Quiet and look out of the window. Surely you can discover something out there to occupy yourself. I need my sleep.
Because the roads were blocking the trail.
Yes, makes the $150 I paid for the journey worth the price.
Ma, was Papa at the sport? Francis, be quiet.
Whoa! There's some company here.
Gather up things.
Out of my way, boy.
The journey west was not cheap. Wagons, livestock, and supplies for 6 months were expensive. Imagine the cost of a heavy-duty truck and half a year's worth of supplies. For Mormon converts coming from Europe, the expense of a wagon and livestock was prohibited. The solution was the handcart. The handcarts generally carried up to 250 pounds of supplies and luggage, though they were capable of handling loads as heavy as 500 pounds. The handcart companies were organized using the handcarts and sleeping tents as the primary units. 5 people were assigned per handcart. Each individual was limited to 17 pounds of clothing and bedding. Tents housing as many as 20 people were brought along for sleeping accommodations.
This activity gives you the sense of what it took to pull a cart across the prairie.
Another user of the trail was the Pony Express. The Pony Express built relay stations from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California, following generally the Mormon Trail to Salt Lake City and then the California Trail across the desert and over the Sierra Nevada mountains to Sacramento. Outside the main building is a reconstructed Pony Express station. For more information about the Pony Express and their stations, check out my video on Pony Express stations. The National Historic Trails Interpretive Center is an excellent museum and well worth the visit.